I am here with Aja from Twitter,
Hello.
someone that I spoke to online and a fellow member of the gender critical world. So thanks for joining me.
You're welcome. It's nice to be here. And surprised you knew who I was.
Well, it's funny because I've been a lurker in the whole Twitter turban world for a pretty long time. So I think I've been, well, not a long time, but like a year longer than I've been, doing this podcast. So I think I've known who you were for longer, for quite a while now. But yeah. So I wanted to ask you if you've seen that today there's something trending on Twitter. Glinner is a bigot, I believe it was.
I have seen that. I
Yeah.
just seen it now. It's to do with the House of Lords evidence he gave with the Helen Stanner. Yeah, I haven't looked at the hashtags because it's that point. It's the same stuff we see all the time.
Exactly. It's so weirdly blind because I actually went to the hashtag before I watched his speech and it's only I think 6 minutes, so it's really watchable if anybody wants to go watch it. I think they should, and especially if you just looked at the hashtag because you would think he said like the most awful, hateful things, right? I mean, this is sort of always what happens, but
Yeah.
and then I listened to it and it was just the usual critiques.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we are at the moment. You say the most minor thing and you get called a bigot for it or a Nazi and everything else that comes with that.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty weird being called a Nazi. I mean, I was even called a Nazi and I'm Jewish, so I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
Well, I've been called all sorts. What, a Nazi, a TERF, obviously, transphobe, white, racist, Karen, middle class, Christian fundamentalist, everything. And it's just I couldn't
Right.
be further from the truth. So
Yeah, I know.
whatever.
The fundamentalist one is a big one, like the right wing, and also the race one because they're like, oh,
Yeah.
all gender critical people are white. That's a thing. That's
Yeah,
something.
white feminism,
Right.
apparently.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. There was this great article in Feminist Current a while ago. It was by Raquel Rosario Sanchez, and it was something about like if white feminism is a thing, it's gender ideology.
Yeah, it absolutely is. They're the most racist thing you can get. I mean, the way they compare black women to men, it's so fucking so racist.
You can
Like,
swear on this.
okay, excellent, because that
Yeah.
will come out again. Yeah, it's the most racist ideology you can think of. But they have the cheek to call us racist.
Yeah, and it's one of those reversals where it feels like they're doing it on purpose to obfuscate what they're doing, or maybe they're not all conscious of it, to be fair, but
Well, no, but we live in a time where if you label someone with a certain word, then you can just ignore them and then that's the end of that.
right, exactly. How did you start with all of this? What was the first thing that like tipped you off to a problem?
The first time I found about it was London Pride 2018. I hadn't been to Pride for many years because it's just corporations and glitter, and it doesn't suit me anymore. But I went because my friends wanted to go, and that was the year that Get the L Out protested. And I didn't see them actually protest because I was further down the parade, but I heard that there was a bunch of bigots protesting and they were hating trans people and blah, 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 blah. And later on in that day, I heard the word TERF. I'd never heard that in my life. So the next day, I went and educated myself and looked up what TERF meant. And I found a podcast with Angela Wild from Get the L Out. And then that's when I fell down the rabbit hole when I realized they actually believe or actually think that trans women are women.
Right.
That's what they actually mean. No, it's not true. And I'm not gonna concede to your fantasy because that's
Right.
all it is.
Right. And once you learn they mean it like in a literal sense, right? Like there's no abstract process
No.
happening there.
And I'm here for like wear what you want, like express yourself in your clothes and your style, any way you want to. That doesn't change who you are, like your sex, it doesn't.
Right.
And to say that it does, it confines us into silly little stereotypical boxes, which I don't want any part of. Because
Yeah.
I've never been like that. I've always been gender non-conforming, which apparently would make me trans now.
Right.
And it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that was one of the things for me as well that I noticed was they're not breaking out of the boxes. They're putting people into boxes even more tightly, really.
Yeah, they're making it worse.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they get the L out. For people who don't know, could you explain like what happened there?
Well, I'm pretty sure everyone knows what Pride is. Get the L out are a bunch of lesbians that decided to protest Pride, shock horror, which is a protest itself, to let everyone know about the cotton ceiling, which is basically men trying to bully lesbians into sleeping with them as a form of validation, which has been going on since forever, but now they're trans women, so it's okay.
Right. Something that I get is that people don't believe that that's happening. Like if you tell people that
Yeah.
lesbians are being pressured to sleep with people with penises, they're like, no, 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 that's not happening.
Yeah. Well, to be honest, like when you talk to anyone about this stuff, you have to be really careful because you just tell people what's actually going on. They think you're crazy because it is crazy. So you have to eke into it little by little.
That's true. Yeah.
The stuff that's going on with children and puberty blockers, it's just crazy.
Yeah, that's one of the worst things, isn't it? Like that's one of the worst. What was the feeling in the UK after the Kira Bell case?
I don't know about the whole of the UK, but for my little TERF corner of it, it was amazing. Yeah, Kira is amazing. I know her a little bit. She's such a strong woman for her age, and I'm so glad she's around to push this fight for us.
Yeah. Yeah, it took a lot from her and the amount of hate that she gets as well.
Non-stop.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and it really goes to prove the point once again, doesn't it? I mean, she's now openly a lesbian and the vitriol that comes at her, you can't separate that from the lesbophobia.
Now it's women saying no, men can't handle it.
Right, exactly. That's one of the that's sort of the bottom line, isn't it? Like, do women have the right to say no? So the get the L out was you saw that you had never heard the word TERF and then you went and educated yourself. What was that like? Were you surprised by what you found out?
I was actually shocked because I've obviously heard of transsexuals and I kind of noticed when that trains to transgender, but I didn't think they actually meant a difference. So I was completely shocked and I spent like a year educating myself on it basically. And yeah, that's the best thing you can do, to educate yourself, because once you do, you can't not see this. And for me, once I saw it, I could not speak up. You have to.
Right. And it's funny because the TRAs always say go educate yourself. And then often that's how people become gender critical.
It's the worst thing for them to say.
Yeah. What they want is for you to just, I guess, read their propaganda. But if you're someone with a curious mind, you recognize that that's not education. And
yeah, but even their own propaganda doesn't make sense. I mean, it changes from week to week. What is acceptable, what isn't. We just seen with the Womex nonsense that's not okay anymore. And that's our fault, apparently.
Right. Yeah, that was ridiculous. If people don't know, there was I don't even really know where it started, but they
no idea.
At some point so it's so ridiculous. But yeah, at some point the woke world was used, or the identitarians or whatever you want to call them, were using the word woman with an X instead of an E or an A. And but then last week it was like, oh no, that's actually transphobic. So they had to wipe their words clean of that. Yeah. So what did you think of Graham Linehan's stunt of going on the dating app?
I thought it was great because I don't know, maybe last year or the year before I'd gone on there as well to maybe find someone, and it was just all penis flying at me. So like, and then when Graham did his stunt, I did my own one and got banned after a couple of days. So there we go. I mean, it's a joke thing, doesn't it?
What did you do to get banned?
A picture of Graham, but just put a couple of makeup on it and then some bio, and they let me on for a couple of days, but then I got banned for it.
That's hilarious.
Not woman enough.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because so I try to keep up with some of the trans YouTube influencers to kind of see what is some of the misinformation that's coming out there and what does everything sound like to them, because I'm really curious how is it like hitting their ears, when we're talking, because there's obviously this massive disconnect or deception happening. But there's one that I was watching and he just did a video where he did cover Graham joining that dating app. And he said, this is, oh, actually, I'm saying he, but this is a trans man.
Okay.
So female to male. And this person is saying, like, you know, Graham Linehan is on here to say that all these trans women or men are invading women's spaces, but that's just not happening. They're just not doing that. And he's the one doing it. And it's just like, there were so many examples of guys who just looked like dudes on that app. And that's just being blatantly ignored. But this person gets like, you know, a ton of views, like a shit ton of views on YouTube. So there's so many young people listening to this and thinking that's true, I guess. But
sorry, go on.
yeah, no, that's okay. No, I don't know. It's just, I can't even like get upset about it anymore at this point when I see stuff like that. But
it's just
really
funny at this point, because they're just proving our point that the app is absolutely ridiculous. But for anyone that does want to hook up with women, Giggle apparently is there, so go to that one instead.
Right. Yeah, and then the creator of Giggle has gotten like a ton of hate.
Of course.
Transphobic. Yeah. What's your experience been like online? Have you had bad run-ins with TRAs?
Well, originally on Twitter I got banned. Twitter I got banned when I first joined the debate, because I joined Twitter. I hadn't had a Twitter account before I found out about any of this, so I joined Twitter for that. I don't even remember what it was I said, but I got banned for that, so I've done a new account. And on Facebook I got suspended for saying only women give birth, and some other nonsense, easy things like that to say. I got suspended on Facebook. But Twitter, every now and again I run into TRAs, but the block button is there for a reason. If they do my head in too much, I just block it. No, online it's not been too bad, to be honest.
That's
Apart
good.
from Facebook, but whatever, I don't care about Facebook.
Right. Yeah. I'm sorry, because there's an echo happening. Do you hear that, or is that just me?
It seems okay on my side.
Okay. I always have audio problems. But yeah, what was I gonna say about that? That you got banned. Oh yeah, so that reminded me, you said you got banned from Facebook for saying only women give birth. Was that it?
It was something along those lines. Only women menstruate or only women give birth. And yeah, I got banned from there.
Like the most inane statement of fact. And I had a really similar statement that got me in trouble. So when I got fired for my Twitter, one of the things my boss said was, because I did manage to talk to him on the phone the next day, said like, why did you fire me? And he read me a few of the tweets. And one of them was a retweet that said, there is no spectrum of people who can be forcibly impregnated. And so that was like a fireable statement to retweet.
It's crazy. It's gone so crazy. You can't even, call water wet anymore.
Right.
Without being a bigot.
Yeah, that's what it is. Without like trying to pry into what you do in real life, do you have any, like, I'm just curious, like in real life, does this affect your world at all?
My job is super woke, so they wouldn't be okay with probably what I'm saying. But in my real life, I've lost a couple of friends over it, but they weren't really close friends, so it's fine. But no, hasn't really affected me too much. My sister is an absolute TERF as well. And I got my partner in crime here, so it's fine.
Yeah. In terms of the job, are you at all concerned about them finding your presence online?
Yes, but I think I'm careful enough that they won't. And I mean, you have to speak up, don't you? If they do, then I'll deal with it then.
Okay.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah. So you're okay with your face being out there?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I have my face pretty much open on Twitter, apart from my big lips. But I mean, I post pictures as well. So yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it does come to a point where you have to choose like your poison. I guess you have to pick your poison. Silence.
Well, it's either speak now or never do. And I'm the kind of person, if you see something that's going wrong, you have to speak up, because I can't have that on my conscience. And it's not just affecting me, it affects every woman. And I look at my nieces and stuff, and I cannot sit by and do nothing while this is the world they're growing up in.
Right. Do you see any, I mean, how old are your nieces? Do you see any of this?
12 and completely gender non-conforming, and because she likes to play football, she had a teacher tell her she might be a boy.
Oh
So
no.
it's just like, no, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
And I was the same as her when I was a kid, and I just grew up because we didn't have that nonsense when I was younger.
Yeah. Are you able to talk to her about that?
Oh yeah, she's fine with it. She thinks it's all ridiculous. She knows she's a girl. She's very stable,
Yeah.
but still, I mean, she's got a lot to face coming up.
Right. Right. And have you always been like, you had that in you where you had to speak up when you felt something was wrong?
No, I think I am like this now because through my childhood, all my school life, so I went to 2 primary schools and 2 secondary schools and was bullied mercilessly through the whole of that, and only sort of got a little bit confident in my 20s and just, I'm not gonna put up with that anymore, and I'm not gonna let anyone else be bullied. Not on my watch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who are your inspirations, like in this movement or in anything?
Oh gosh, I'd probably say just my mom, watching her be a strong woman, doing things in the world when she wasn't supposed to be doing them because she was a woman. So it's her.
Yeah.
And in the movement, do you know a woman called Belle Staffy? I think she's
Yeah, a little bit.
and the work she does is amazing because she gets out and does activism on the street. She's recently been in the Leeds red light area, and she actually, I've lost my train of thought now.
That's okay.
She's not just words, she's action as well, and I really look up to that.
Right. Because that's that's something that there's so many armchair activists these days. There's so many people who just do, I mean, I just do stuff online purely, so I'm one of them, I mean, I wouldn't call myself an activist, but
well, everything counts, and there's space for all women in this movement. I mean, I'm not academic at all. I've never written a book. I've not read many feminist books, but I don't think that excludes me from standing up for women and doing what I can in any way I can. And everything counts because it's such a big topic. We all need to put a bit of effort into it. Otherwise, it's no one's going to hear it.
Right. And definitely there's, you don't need to be super well versed in anything to understand, what's wrong here.
No, just be creative and do what you can. Just get a bit of chalk and write on the road. That's what me and DJ Lippy did, or for International Women's Day, we just went in the area, put up some handmade posters, chalked up some stickers.
Nice.
That's activism, I guess.
Yeah. Did you see it? Did you get any reactions?
We did. There was a couple of female joggers going around the park where we were doing it, and they were giving us a nod and a smile. So that's good.
Excellent. That must be, for women who are just staying out of this, sort of trying to keep their nose clean, it's got to be the most helpful thing to see women standing up for it overtly.
I think that's one of the hardest things, to think you're the only one that thinks like this. I know that was a massive help for me when I went to last year now, there was a Women's Place UK meeting, and that's where I met up with so many women, and they've just helped me through the last year.
Okay.
Actually meet women in person and network and know you're not alone.
Right. Yeah, meeting in person is so incredible. I mean, you really can't understate it. It's so different than this online thing, which is a million times better than nothing. But
it is, and there's still good things about being online. I mean, I can talk to you. I would never have met you in real life, so that is one thing. If you can't connect with women in real life, find some kind of Zoom meeting you can be in.
Right. Yeah, and it's still, I mean, I don't know how you experienced this, but I know for me, it's like been a relief to be able to talk about it out loud. It's so much less distressing. I mean, it still distresses me, all the different aspects of it, especially like you said, the young girls who are being told, that they're not girls, or young kids in general. But yeah, did you experience that, like, relief when you did decide to just be open about your views?
I was never really not open about it, because as soon as I found out about it, I was quite open. I mean, I had people tell me I was crazy. So once I found my crew tell me they thought the same, then yeah, that was a massive relief.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then what about the you said you had some like not super close friends who you lost, but what happened there, if you don't mind talking about it?
It was when I was first talking about this issue, and I think it was to do with men in women's prisons. And I just had one lefty male tell me that he was disappointed in me for talking about this. So I politely told him to fuck off. And it, yeah, pretty much went along those lines. And I'm like, okay, yeah, piss off. What do you mean you're disappointed in me? No.
Yeah. And the lefty thing. So that's interesting.
And I'm a lefty, absolutely I am. But I'm not that kind of lefty. That's like religious cult crazy lefty. That's not me.
right. Yeah. What do you make of the new strain of leftism? Like,
I don't know what it is.
yeah.
I mean, like I said, I would consider myself the lefty, but to even say that now, like, is for kind of dirty. I've always voted left in our country. I was a member of the Labour Party for many years, always voted for them. But a couple of years ago, when they started saying women have penises, I just couldn't anymore and left my membership, and that's the end of that. And I had no idea who I'd vote for now if there was an election. It
Yeah.
couldn't be the Greens because they say men are women. It couldn't be Labour, and it couldn't be Liberal, and they're all the left parties. So what do I do?
Yeah, it's quite a dilemma, isn't it? I mean, I think this happened to a lot of women right now. And what's your general like other political positionings? Have you had other things where you're like where you've noticed that are wrong on the left, or do you feel generally like this is the one issue pushing them away from you?
Well, the whole sex work is work, I think, is complete ridiculousness as well, and that's pushing from the left. Surrogacy, I disagree with, because it's another way we can use women's bodies, all the issues around that, and that's a left issue mostly. So that Black Lives Matter, I don't support that. I
Okay.
support the message. I do not support the organization, because they say men are women again, and it's just it has nothing to do with actually helping Black people. I know you don't want to say that, but there you go.
Right. It's, center Black trans women is the mantra, right?
Yeah. What has that got to do with Black women?
Right.
It's men. Okay.
Yeah. Right. It is we should I mean I do think they should be supported, but in a truthful way, not as what they are not, but as what they are.
Well, that's what I say. I support the message. I just don't support the organization, because I don't think the organization fulfills the message.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, it's really difficult. I don't know if I would call myself like politically homeless or something, but I have a similar experience to you in terms of I do consider myself a lefty, but I do feel so embarrassed to say that now because like look at what that connotes these days. I believe in like free speech, and that
Yeah.
doesn't seem to be very popular on the left at the moment.
I can't believe that. Yeah, the right are the ones that defend free speech.
I
It's
know.
crazy.
It is crazy. Yeah. What was it? Oh, I was gonna ask you, are you a radical feminist? Do you consider yourself a rad fem?
I don't really label myself in that way, because I mean, I don't know. If there's a list of rad fem like ideologies, maybe I fit them all, but I don't know. I just consider myself a woman that is there fighting for women. And if
Yeah.
rad fem fits that, then I guess it does.
Hmm.
Or feminist or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I like that because the labels can even start.
Box you in.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
everything you say or do, you have to kind of think about, does it fit into that rad fem or feminist, blah, blah, instead of just doing it and
Right.
then letting your work speak for what it is. And I think whatever I do, it does. I fight for women, and that's all I do.
Yeah, and then you don't get stuck in these traps of like, well, the ideology says this, but I think this. And
Exactly.
the dissonance that can come from that, even from any ideology, I think.
Yeah. And as soon as you start labeling yourself as anything, then someone's already going to say you're not that. So just avoid that by not using labels.
That's very true, because they always seem to say you're not that, no matter what the label is. Like if you say I'm on the left, say no, you're not.
Exactly.
Say I'm
so
not
just give that
transphobic.
up.
Right.
Exactly. Just give it up and just do what you do, and then you're being true to yourself.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Is that for you? Do you think that, I mean, for being true to yourself, is this like a central part of that, do you think, for you? Like the whole gender critical thing?
Absolutely. Being true to, yeah, you have to know. I guess, yeah, it is a gender critical view, because being true to yourself kind of goes against the trans ideology, because trans ideology says to change yourself, not be your true self. And I guess I'm saying you should be your true self, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
Being your true self with medication and surgery doesn't make any sense. You need to love yourself the way you are.
Right.
I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it does, absolutely. And this is kind of random, but are you familiar with Philip Pullman and the Golden Compass series?
Yes, vaguely.
Well,
I've seen the series.
okay,
Well,
so
it's rubbish.
it's rubbish, yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen the show. I read the books when I, younger, but I did really like the books. But the author has, I don't know if you've seen his tweets. He's like one of these male authors who's done, it's funny because it's sort of like they all sound the same, but they'll dip their toe into this debate, and then they'll get a whole bunch of reactions, obviously, on Twitter. And then they'll just go, oh, I don't know, I'm sorry, yes, I think trans women are women, and why is everyone so angry at me? And this is this cowardice. But what was funny to me was the Golden Compass. The book is all about, and the show too, I guess, is about the government wants to cut kids, like cut away their soul, basically. They're like their animal form of their soul. But I was talking about this with MK Fain yesterday, and she pointed out like I think they're called the demons. I don't know how you would pronounce that word. It's like demons something.
Yeah.
Animals, that those are always the opposite sex from you. Like if you're
Okay.
a woman, you would have a male demon. So MK pointed out like they're cutting away almost the gender non-conforming part of you. And
Absolutely, they are.
it's this really similar, interesting comparison, but then the author, of course, just somehow misses the whole point.
Of course, but that's what a lot of blue ticks play. They seem to not understand what's going on or what's at stake. It does my head in, because how can you not see this? Either you see it and you choose to ignore it, or you can't see it. And both of those are kind of inexcusable to me. They really are, especially when you dip your toe into it a little bit and then you run away scared. If you are a famous person, balls fucking up and say something.
Exactly. Yeah, I know. I mean, what was your reaction when J.K. Rowling started talking?
Oh, it's such relief. I was thinking, oh God, okay, here she said it. Now the adults have entered the room. Everyone's going to listen. This is going to be over. And here we are, what, a year later still.
Right. I know.
But I do feel things are changing, but I'm ever an optimist, so I always feel like that. But I do think this year's changing.
Yeah. Yeah. People keep saying that. Like almost everyone I talk to has this sense that things are changing now.
I think it's because things are finally getting up to the courts, and that's when things get serious. And they're not gonna listen to, I feel like this and identify as that. It's not gonna work there.
Exactly.
And our House of Lords as well, it's not gonna work there with them.
Right. It's you've got to have some evidence. Yeah.
Yeah, our feelings are not good enough.
Feelings are not going to cut it. Yeah. And sort of magical beliefs. Yeah, that's another thing. Do you see this as like a religious belief or a pseudo-religious belief?
It absolutely is a religious belief. I mean, it's no different from believing that, the wine is literally the blood of Christ. They're literally believing that a penis is a female organ. It's no different. It's no different to me.
Yeah, I've noticed that they do this. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and if you go against it, you're a blasphemer and you have to label yourself with their religious terms. No, not going to happen.
That's exactly what it is. You're a blasphemer if you go against it, and if you went with it and then you left, you're an apostate. So
Exactly.
like,
That needs to be cut out completely, disowned. It's a
yeah,
religion, it is.
right. And I like that point about a penis can be female and water can be, or wine is the blood of Christ. I mean, it's a funny,
Nonsense.
right.
It
And
is the
it's,
same nonsense.
yeah. And it's also this, Zach Elliott has pointed this out, that it's a linguistic sleight of hand to say something like a penis can be female or a man can give birth, because they make it work in their linguistic new world, but not in reality.
No, but this is how it started with the language, with the trans women. When you start saying trans women, then it's easy to forget they're men. And even this male-bodied or born male, born male, they're men. Just say men. Like, this wishy-washy language really annoys me. And I know not everyone can just use straightforward language, but when you can, it is important to.
Yeah. How do you feel about pronouns, like
Oh,
preferred
I hate them.
pronouns?
Fuck your pronouns. Don't tell me what to call you when you're not here. Like, you can call me whatever you want when I'm not there. I don't care. And I will call you what I see.
Did you hear what happened yesterday in Paris?
I saw that, yeah. And to be
Speaking of
honest,
oddly offensive.
I'm not even shocked, because we've seen it in Canada, like, not as violent, but these TRAs, they just keep getting worse and worse.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had my own run-ins with them, so not
Yeah.
that bad, thankfully.
Right.
But I do think there's going to be some serious incidents and someone's going to get hurt. And will people take notice then? Probably not.
That's the thing, because I feel like if, anything should make people take notice, it's a woman getting an egg in the face for holding a sign that says "Long live the female sex." But what have your run-ins consisted of?
Okay, well, the worst one happened last year. Do you know, if I say Grenfell, do you know what that meant?
No.
Okay, well, in 2017, a tower block, a social housing tower block, caught fire and burnt in the night, and 72 people died. And basically, that's about 10 minutes from my front door.
Oh,
So I remember that quite clearly, and the area is still very traumatized from it.
okay.
Fast forward to 2020, and I went to a Labour left women's rights meeting at community centre just at the base of Grenfell, where the memorial is. When I went there was probably 30 trans activists there, screaming and shouting, running around, all dressed in black with masks, banners, drums, megaphones. There was one lovely one that had like these pink lights on them and a strap on with a big dildo. All the women had to get escorted in by security, and then maybe about halfway through the meeting, we started smelling smoke. Obviously, we were all getting worried, considering we were right next to Grenfell. We had someone come in and tell us basically they were smoke bombing the whole community centre, throwing smoke grenades at us and terrorising all the women out there. And then when we came out, there was lots of local residents that had come down to see what the hell was going on, and they were being screamed at, called bigots, TERF, told to fuck off, and get off. TERF's out of my TERF. Like, this is my TERF, bitch, and like, you have no respect for this area, what these residents have gone through, traumatizing them again. And that was one of my run-ins with TRAs that I will never forgive them for, and this area will never forgive them for.
And when was that again?
That was last year, March.
Okay.
They did this, and the fire was 2017.
Okay. Yeah, as you were saying that, I remembered reading about that. I remember reading about what they did there with the smoke bombs and the fucking pink dildo
And the
or whatever.
statement they came out with afterwards was that we shouldn't have let off the smoke bombs because it was next to Grenfell. Like, there's two issues there. Yes, because it was next to Grenfell, you shouldn't have done it, but you shouldn't be smoke bombing feminists anyway, no matter where it is.
Yeah.
TRAs.
Yeah, it's, I now remember when I saw that happen, I went and I read about the Grenfell incident. And for Americans who don't know, I mean, it wasn't on the same scale as 9/11. It wasn't a terrorist attack, but when you read
national tragedy.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of race issues around it because it is a social housing block, and this area is very mixed. It's very rich on one side, very poor in another side. And the reason that there was cladding on that building, which is what caught fire, is because they wanted to put it up to make it look prettier because of the area. So it's a massive racial issue. So for these TRAs to scream about racial issues and social issues, and then to come down and do that and not give any consideration to the whole area that's still traumatized now. But they don't care about anything about them.
Yeah, that incident was, people burned alive inside, and if I remember right, what I read, they were told not to evacuate.
Yeah, because that apparently is the standard advice, because the fire doors are supposed to keep the fire back, but because it was the cladding on the outside of the building, it didn't work. And yeah, lots of
So
people died.
did the TRAs ever say a justification, an excuse, an apology for setting off smoke bombs there?
Their apology was, we're sorry that we did it next to Grenfell.
Wow.
Not that it was done. Like, so presumably if it was somewhere else, they still would have been okay with it.
And I mean, you would think too that it may have been an intentional choice to do it there.
Is it very intentional, or they just have no idea, no care in the world for anyone else? Like, they just wanted to terrorize women, and then that's what they did.
Okay. And then because they had this complete unawareness of the class and the racial issue here, because you could call them privileged, right?
Yeah, they definitely are. They were not from this area, as well I can say that.
Yeah.
They were not. They were not the residents that were traumatized that night. They were not.
And did that get media coverage?
It got a little bit of coverage in a couple of newspapers, some online stories, but none of the major parties spoke out of it. No, like, it was a Labour women's meeting. Labour didn't say anything about it. But before that, there had been a meeting again for Labour women in Brighton, where TRAs had terrorised them and bashed the windows, through stuff for women going in, and no one said anything. So,
Wow.
no one said anything.
Were you there for that one?
No, I wasn't there for that one.
Okay. For the Grenfell one, what happened after they put the smoke bombs?
Well, once someone come on and told us that it was just smoke bombs and they hadn't actually set us on fire, the meeting carried on. And then when we left, they were still out there screaming and shouting at us, and women had to be escorted to the tube station.
Who escorted them?
The people that just work at the community centre, because it's just a local run community centre, and a couple of guys that work there, they weren't supposed to stay there that night, but they seen all the hassle we were getting, so they were like, okay, no, we're going to stay around and look after you.
Yeah.
And they did, thankfully.
So they escorted.
It wasn't police.
Right.
No, it wasn't police at all. The police knew about it and they just didn't do anything.
Did they
It was
arrive?
Yeah, at the end, they were there when I was leaving. I think I saw a couple of police officers, but they didn't do anything. It was just the volunteers who work in the community centre that were looking after us.
Wow. So they escort you to the train station, and the TRAs are still kind of swarming?
Not me, because I live 20 minutes away and me and my sister left. There's no way they're going to come and try and have a go at me in my own area. But there was other women that escorted. And when I was inside, there was an old lady there in her 80s that told me she had to be escorted in because these kids were screaming at her. It's like, it shouldn't have to happen. Like,
Right.
she shouldn't have to be dealing with that. No woman should, but 8-year-old women shouldn't have to be dealing with teenagers running around in strap-ons in the middle of the night, screaming at them.
And how many women approximately were at the meeting?
At that meeting was maybe about 100.
Okay,
It's
it
quite
was
small,
big.
about 30 TRAs outside, maybe.
Okay. And I mean, most people probably have an inkling if they're listening to this, but what were they screaming?
Trans women are women, fuck your genital preferences, TERFs. Yeah, TERFs, get off our TERF, which is the one that particularly annoyed me because this is my TERF. Just the nonsense, yeah, bigots, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, the usual nonsense. And then that pink dildo, what the hell was that? So
Yeah.
people don't know, it
Yeah,
was
I don't
like,
even know if it was a man or a woman because they were completely in black and they had like a mask on as well with the hood. Most of them were blacked up, and where the community centre is, it's under like a flyover, so it's quite dark. and this was at night anyway, and they had like these lights on them, and then this big black dildo running around.
Yeah, it's kind of scary. Like I saw the picture of that person and it's like their face is covered, but they've got this like and I mean it doesn't exactly help with the whole notion of like penises can be used as weapons.
Not really at all. It doesn't do their side any good. And you'd think they would know better, but they can get away with these things, so they don't need to know better.
Yeah, that's the worst, isn't it? That they've gotten away with that.
Yeah, you can hit a TERF now, and it's justifiable to some people.
Right. And if people don't know, what one of the things that happened in Paris 2 days ago was that they painted in red paint in French. It said, "Save a trans, kill a TERF," in huge letters. Yeah, it's just they're justifying violence against women.
Yeah. We used to be witches, and now we're TERFs.
Right. Yeah. And that, I mean, brings us back up to J.K. Rowling, right? Because gosh, it was so incredible to hear her speak up. And I also thought that would be a turning point, you know, when I read her essay, because not only was it so well written and moving and careful and compassionate, it also revealed her story of her own rape and her own abuse. And I just thought, like, there's no way they can ignore that. But then the reaction, I was like, okay, the Me Too movement, even with all its flaws, is dead.
Absolutely it is. This is a massive slap in the face to the whole Me Too movement. Because how are you going to have the Me Too movement if you don't even know what a woman is? Like, if you won't even believe women when they're talking about things like the cotton ceiling or that men shouldn't be in women's prisons, then what is Me Too there for?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, some people say this is even a backlash against the Me Too movement because women were kind of gaining a voice. Do you see it that way?
Absolutely. Whenever women gain rights, there's always a backlash against it. And this is definitely one of those. It's definitely a men's rights movement.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. And then in terms of the MRA side of it or the men's rights activism, it's like we're seeing in legislation now stuff that looks just like what men's rights activists want. And we have here in the US this Equality Act. I know you guys have your own Equality Act too, but we have this act that is it might pass. It might be about to pass. And it redefines sex to include gender identity. Well, I just spoke to a lawyer who called it, she said, to me, this is a men's rights, civil rights bill.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And the fact that people can't see this, I don't understand why. Even the sports issue, which you would think would be the most obvious, apparently it's not.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy. I don't know if you follow, because this is also United States, but Chase Strangio from the ACLU.
I don't follow, but yeah, I have a look at what she says now and again.
I follow Chase just in case Chase ever goes private. So I want to make sure that I've got access to the drama. But yeah, yesterday it was a barrage of tweets about how the bills to keep sports sex segregated are killing trans kids. That's what Chase keeps repeating. Like the word deadly keeps coming up. And it's such a lie. I mean, it's obviously hyperbole, but it's a lie.
It is, but it works, doesn't it? It absolutely works, and it's been proven to work for many years, so they're going to stick to it.
Yeah. Do you see the money? Are you like a follow the money person, or what's your take on that?
Not so much. I mean, I do think we really need to look at who's making money out of this. Big Pharma for starters. But there's so much other stuff that I look at. I don't really go down that route, but always follow the money in any situation.
Right. Yeah, it's important to do it, but then also, some people also make the great point that we shouldn't focus on that to the exclusion of all other factors, because there are other, like social, political factors and whatnot.
It affects every single thing. It affects everything, because if you're saying men are women and women are men, that's a change to reality. That affects everything. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the reality denialism is just, it never ceases to just blow my mind.
And expecting other people to lie. Like,
Right.
I wasn't raised as a liar. I'm not gonna lie for you.
Right.
No.
Exactly, because it's asking us to tell a lie, and it's a very dangerous lie. But even if it wasn't, it would still not be the truth, and it would
Yeah,
still,
no, it's not a good precedent to set that the whole world agrees on a lie.
yeah.
Which is one reason that this is not gonna or that this will fail, because it is a lie. And lies can't hold up forever. They just can't.
Right. Do you see that, do you see that being the end of, do you see the lie crumbling, the whole bubble, when enough people are able to, I don't know, call it out for the lie that it is?
That's what I see. But I mean, there's been times like when JK spoke up where I thought the bubble would have popped. But it is getting there. I don't know if there'll be one big moment where it will pop, or it'll just have to eke out over time, but definitely happening. You have to stay positive. And it will happen, like I said, because it's a denial of reality, and the reality will prevail.
Right. Yeah. It's this collective lie and this collective delusion almost. So it can't last forever. It wouldn't be possible. Although I don't know how long it could last.
Well, either way, I hope it's over soon, because it's causing so much damage, and there's going to be a tidal wave coming after it.
Yeah.
It's going to need cleaning up.
What do you mean by that, the tidal wave?
Well, for me, mostly I'm thinking about all the young girls that are going to be damaged or have been damaged by this, and the boys as well. Everyone, everything, all the laws that are being weakened because of this, women in prisons that have to deal with men in their cell. Everything is just, we're going to have to fix it all.
Yeah. And we're going to have to go backwards, because we did fight for, well, women before us fought for certain rights that we are now losing, and we're going to have to try to regain them. It's just such lost ground, which I guess is the exact reason why people would call it a men's rights movement.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, like when women got the vote 100 years ago, at least they knew what a woman was.
I know.
At least they had that.
It's pretty insane, isn't it? Like 100 years after we got the right to vote, we have you're not allowed to say what a woman is.
Yeah.
So it's like, how did they know who to not let vote? I mean,
well, I saw a tweet today saying that cis women were given the vote before trans women. What? Okay.
I mean, at least it's good for a laugh. Like,
yeah, it is.
It's ridiculous. Was that person being serious? Do you know?
I have no idea. Sometimes I think it's a troll account. It's hard to tell.
It's really hard to tell, because people do say crazy stuff like that, but that was so wacky that, I mean, yeah. So to start to wrap up, I want to ask you, you talked about your nieces, and I wonder if you have any words for other young girls if they happen to be watching this, and do you have any advice for them if they're maybe they're having an identity crisis or not, they're just navigating all this stuff?
When it comes to identity, try not to think about that too much. You can identify as anything you want. It doesn't mean you are that. Like, I don't identify as a woman. I am a woman. Anything that comes on top of that, things I like, things I do, things I say, they just are. Like, it doesn't mean I am a woman. It's not because I identify as one. I just am. So stop thinking about what you identify and just be what you are. Right. Which is a woman. And amazing. You don't need to be a man.
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of just like not stressing and overthinking all that stuff.
Yeah. Just do. Yeah. I don't know what other advice I have. And yeah, I guess if you're a young gender critical woman, I know COVID's going on and not everywhere's open yet, but if you can, get to a meeting and meet women in person, especially if you're young, because older women are so wise, and I still love meeting them, and they have so much to tell you. They really do. And they will, and they enjoy it, and you'll like hearing it. and
Yeah.
it'll make you feel stronger.
Yes, absolutely. And that there are so many of us who want to support those young women, you know. So yeah, well, thank you so much. This was really fun, and I appreciate you coming in, sharing all your thoughts with us.
Thank you for having me. It was nice to see you.